we really think that form needs to follow function in a way. It's a sort of kind of rationalism and modernism motto. But we also think that at some point there are things that just work well graphically and visually, so you don't have to justify everything. Okay, you have to have an idea that works, but then you can just adjust it to make it works visually, which is important as well.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Edit and Do podcast. Today has been a little bit of a long day for me. I just came back from a conference, but I am happy to be here, and it's good to be chatting with our guest today. So our guest has got quite an elaborate story, which we'll dive into. So I'm not gonna get into the details of his journey because I think I'll sort of let him do that. But today we're speaking to Andrea Zambardi, the co-founder of Atto. Andrea, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Amazing. So I think to get started, with a lot of the guests that we speak to, it's always nice to start with the origin story, get to know how they got to where they are today, and maybe more especially like their background. I think we all at some point in our lives have a dream of what we want to do professionally, and then life sort of throws us a couple of curveballs and we find ourselves somewhere else. So Can you give us an idea of how you started out?
Yeah, but I was born in 1984 in Italy. I think it's the first things that I did. First of all, sorry for my English. It could be sometimes weird just because I'm not mother tongue and I'm Italian. So I could have this wrong accent like, hey, what are you doing here? But I'll try to avoid that. No, when I was really young, I think my dream was to be a pilot of cars, something like that. I really enjoy car and I still enjoy it in a weird way because I'm not using car anymore. I just drive my bike basically, and I think it's not really the best vehicle that you can use to move, but I'm really interested in it in terms of design and driving it like for sport. But then life brings me in another direction. Basically, when I was like a teenager, I used to play the drum in a band. And I started to do the communication stuff. At the time, there was there is the first internet, but basically all the stuff that you do to promote your band is basically made in paper. So you can, do the booklet of the CD, the flyer, posters, stickers and stuff like T-shirts and stuff like that. I was a bit into computers, so I learned how to use software a bit and was interested in graphic design. Of course, our horrible stuff. If I see now, it was completely. How can I say? How much can I be rude? I don't know. You understand?
It doesn't matter. Go for it.
Okay, it was complete shit, basically, and and I did. At the time, I was doing my high school in Italy. High school are divided by subject, basically. So you have to decide at 14 years old. And at the point, I wasn't really sure what to do, basically. A teacher of mine says that I was into classic mode. Classic is like more Italian letter and stuff, Greek and Latin. But I for sure, I'm not interested in Latin and Greek because I'm more kind of contemporary and future person than past person. Right now I'm I am started to be interesting also in the past, but it's really kind of new stuff to me. But when I was young, it was like more I'm more interested in future and modernity and stuff. And so I go for a scientific high school. So basically, there's a lot of math, a lot of physics. There was Latin as well, because Latin apparently it's really important for Italians. I don't know. I mean, okay, there was the Romans who spoke Latin, but I don't know. So I'm not really have like an artistic background when I start to do that stuff. And at the end of high school, I was a bit in the middle between choosing engineering, mechanical, or like aerodynamics, aerospatial, to follow a bit the path of car and stuff. But then I was really tired to study. In particular, I thought that math wasn't. I wasn't bad in math, but I was quite tired of doing that. I was more interested in doing something practical, and so I joined my university, which was in Milano. It was Politecnico. I took a 3-year degree in communication. Then applied to go in London to study graphic design at Camberwell School of Art. I stay here for 1 year. I supposed to be 2-year longs, but I've got some, self problem. Problem with myself, basically, personal problem. And so I go back to Milan, and I did a year in photography, because I was really into photography at that time. And when I moved to London, I attended an elective course, because in London, basically, there is some courses that you can choose. And this elective course was about photography. And it was super cool, because in that school there was a lot of laboratory, and I was allowed to print with analog photo. I was working with analog photography, so I printed both black and white and color photography. And black and white, it's quite normal, but to print color photography, analog color photography, it was really nice experience and really rare. I think right now it's quite impossible to do that. And so I was in the middle of say, maybe I prefer to do photography than graphic design. But at the end, I discovered that I enjoyed more photography when I have to do for myself, not like for a job, because I don't really like being in a studio photography. It was quite stressful to me. No, it's not stressful, but it was really tiring, and I don't like. The thing that I loved in photography was going around and see and try to find the beauty in places where you cannot see the beauty normally. It was I was kind of really into graphic also in photography, so I was looking for composition, color combination, and stuff. And so at the end of the day, I tried to find a job also as a photographer, but more as a graphics. And I found a job in Milan. During my year in photography university, I do an internship in Barcelona, which I really love as a city. And when I tried to find a job, I searched for a job here in Milan, in Barcelona as well. But at the end, I found it here, and I remain in here. So, and I worked for 4 or 5 years for a studio here in Milan. And then I met Sara, which is my partner in crime in Atto, Sara Bianchi. And we found Atto.
Amazing.
And now it's almost 10 years. It's 9 years of Atto.
Nice.
Sure, that's quite a journey, and I think like as a person who's being both on the side of working a job and then also starting your own business, those are two very different lifestyles. What would you say? Like how is how was the change when it sort of happened? Moving from being a designer in somebody else's ship, in some sense, to sort of starting your own thing and picking that up. Like, what was that like?
Do you mean you are more interested in the reason or in the differences between?
I think a little bit. Let's maybe start a little bit with the reason. Like, what encouraged you to actually take that step?
Basically, there are two main reasons. I've never worked in a really big agency, and this is one of my regrets, because I don't think it's my place. But you never know. And when I was young, I was sure that it wasn't my place. So I never tried to do that. And I didn't want to do that. So I was in this small studio. We were like 10 people together. There are 4 founders and 6 employees. And so at some point, I feel like there's no way to grow more than this, in a way. I feel like I reached my plateau. I don't know if plateau is a French word. I don't know if it's used in English as well.
Yeah.
And in a way, I wasn't doing what I would like to do in terms of graphic design. I mean, I was no synced with my chief anymore, basically. And so I was tired, probably. I was, bored and tired. And at the time I was 30, so I think that, okay, I have to do it now, or probably more time I let it go, more difficult this choice could be. Because at some point, when you're young, okay, you can sleep on the sofa, you could eat shit for days and nobody cares. Once you grow up, you start to be a little bit more choosy. So you say, okay, I would like to do these holidays. I would like to eat a little bit better. So starting new stuff when you are older, I think it's a little bit more difficult to be because of this, because at some point you need more money, basically. And you are probably less, how can I say, less, for you it's less easy to accept some sacrifices, in a way.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, so at that time I say, okay, this is the time to do it.
And how long have you and Sarah been building this brand or this business, and how long has Atto been going?
We started at the end of 2013. We met at the previous place, so we worked together. I mean, we were in the same studio, but we really doesn't work together. We did a couple of projects together, and for a couple of years, and then we were talking. I decided to move, and she decided to move as well. So we moved together.
Okay, wow. So that's almost 10 years next year. And I'm quite curious, a lot of us meet someone and we venture on into a business or a project similar to me and Alfie, right? We actually work together every single day on projects, and that kind of helped us gauge that it would be a good relationship to do something together, like a big project. How did you find that you kind of felt secure that taking this big leap with Sarah, that was the right move? What was it about the relationship you guys have that it seemed like a good business partnership?
I feel that we feel together. We were interested in the same kind of graphics in a way. We feel that we can share the same values. And you don't have to think too much, I think.
And has that kind of stayed the same, or the relationship has obviously changed over 10 years?
At some always it's like it's a dualism. So there are part of me that are different from Sarah as well. But at the end of the day, the base, which is important, it's the same. We have the same view regarding, for example, how to manage the studio. What is our priority? And sometimes, for sure, I prefer, the green stuff, and she prefers the blue stuff. But it's just, the top of the mountain, no? So this is quite normal. And I think that's the point is trying to respect. I mean, it's a weird balance, because you have trying to respect the other ideas, and at the same point you have to try to respect yourself ideas. So I think that this is the balance in a way. We are respectful each other, basically, and sometimes you have to let it go. Sometimes you fight for your idea, and the other person let it go. I think that's the balance. And to be honest, we really didn't think too much, I think, when we started. I mean, we just did it. And at the end, it's, as a business, graphic design is not really something difficult to start. I mean, you are not, like a bakery. If you want to start a bakery, you have to put a lot of money in it.
Commitments,
If you are a graphic designer, okay, I try for 1 year, 2 years, and if I can get my bill paid, I just search for another work. You just invest like for some rent for a desktop or for a place, your computer, but basically everybody has a computer. That's it. The Adobe subscription at that time. And and that's it.
Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah,
I mean, it's quite. It was a lighter decision. I mean.
And I think that's one of the things that is good about this, the digital space as a whole. The barrier to entry is very low.
Yeah.
Like if you have the skill and the patience and the drive, you can really start something. But can you maybe tell us a little bit, maybe in the early days versus how things have changed until now, the type of work? Because, graphics design, in some sense, it's one discipline, but the type of work that different graphic designers do varies quite a lot. So do you guys have either like a specialty or a medium that you prefer? What does that look like?
So right now, we are not specialists, but we are doing a lot of book in terms of hard copy stuff. I mean, catalogs, books, photographic book, magazines. And we do basically that stuff and brand identity. So logos, build visual strategies and website, basically. When we start, we do everything. Also now we do everything. I mean, but now we're trying to focus more on what we are interested in. And maybe we also try to collaborate more with other people, because in a way we are more self-sure. I mean, we have more works, so
confident.
If we need some illustrator, we can call the illustrator without the fear of losing some money. At the beginning, you have to take everything, because basically you have to pay the bills, basically. So maybe at the beginning, if there are a project that need the illustration, we do the illustration as well, even if it's not our core business. I mean, this is what changed, basically. What I would like to say is that graphic design has a really low entrance in terms of cost. This is a good point, because it's easy to enter, but it's also a bad thing, because it's easy to enter for everybody. So at the beginning, you have to fight with a lot of people.
Competition.
There's a lot of people that maybe is not so accurate with you, especially in the beginning when you don't have the name, or when people doesn't really know you. You compete with people who maybe do really low prices, but they don't have the skill or the professionality. And at the beginning, it's hard, because basically the work that arrives to you is normally someone that knows you, because maybe you are friends of a friend. So they just don't choose you, but just to say, okay, that's a graphic designer. I don't know what graphic design is, but I know that it's a graphic designer. So I call him and see what happens. And this is really the hard point to start. For us, it was, I don't know, maybe for other people, it was something else. For us, was trying to do what we want to do, and our trip in these years, it worked at the end. Is working now. Is that people call us because want to call us, basically, and not just because we are a friend of a friend who needs to do graphic design. So right now, people call us for something that they saw. That we did before, so everything it's easier in a way, because you know that it's like, I don't know, if you like Prada, you go to Prada to buy a bag. If you don't know there is Prada, you go to a market and try to find a bag that you like, but you don't really know where to go. At the beginning, clients are more like that kind of clients, so people who really doesn't know what graphic design is or what they are looking for, and so they stumble on you for some crazy reason, and so everything is more difficult, because you want to do something, and they doesn't understand what you are trying to do, and it was more complicated in a way. How we reached that, basically, I think that we did using a lot the self-committed works. So we always would like to work with hard copy stuff, so with printed stuff. And so when we started the studio, we bought a machine that is called Retrospective, which I don't know, I can turn the camera, which is that one.
Okay,
I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah.
This is basically a sort of photocopier, but it's different from inside. It's something that can have a really particular visual result, and you can do a lot of copies in really quite fast time, in a really short time. So we did start to do a lot of self-initiated project to trying to see, to make people understand what we would like to do. Or we do a couple of fanzines, and after a couple of years, for maybe 3 years, arrives this guy who saw this stuff and say, I'm creating this magazine who is going to be distributed worldwide. I would like you to make the direction of this and create the magazine from the scratch. And
I think
amazing.
We've heard this previously from another guest. How do you go about actually doing the work that you want to be doing? And that starts with kind of doing the work, even though there's at that point not a demand for it or not a client for it, but start doing it so that you can kind of project to the world and potential new clients and customers that this is what I'm good at, this is what I want to do, and then you kind of attract that work back to you.
Yeah, what I would like to say, just not because I really don't want to see like a TED talk, because I really hated that kind of philosophy. I mean, it was lucky basically, and it was painful because for a long time you wait for that call. And I remember that I checked the email. It was the first thing that I did when I woke up in the morning, the last thing that I do when I go to bed, to see if someone wrote us. And when someone wrote us, I was really happy. And every time it was like, oh, could be the work that changed my life. It never happened. This work that I talked before, that really didn't change my life. I mean, it was just as a drop in the water, but something that it's like building another step in the stair. And that help us to grow. So, I mean, I don't want to make that easy. Okay, it was just say, okay, it happened. If that call never happened, probably the stairs became more rapid, or I don't know. We also eat a lot of shit. I think that is my favorite word today. No, but I mean, no, it's not so easy. I mean, you basically at the beginning you have a lot of spare time that it sounds good, but it's not good. This is one of the, I mean, I don't remember who said that in capitalism there's nothing worse than have a bad job is doesn't have the job. Okay?
Yes.
So this is particularly true, because when you say, oh, you are lucky, you're a freelance, you have a lot of spare time. The problem is that when you have spare time, you always think, okay, something is going to arrive, or I need. And so with time, you also learn that you have to anticipate the moment in which you don't have work. So you have to you have to always keep busy with creating, social communication. One of the biggest error that we did, and I don't know, I interpreted it like this, but I don't know if it was that what happened. At some point, we were really busy in working. We were two of us, and we stopped to communicate what we were doing. The result of that is that we work a lot for 1 year, and the year after we were basically without client almost.
Crazy.
Yeah. That's because probably you cannot stop communicate what you're doing. Also because
So just to clarify, are you saying that for during that time you stopped communicating publicly what you're doing, like publicly? Okay.
Yeah.
So we have this big year in which work a lot, really a lot, too much. Probably at the time we should take another person to help us, but we were not sure. lot of confusion. And the year after, it was quite complicated because all the work that we did the year before wasn't proper there. There were also some unlucky coincidence that we basically at the time had 3 clients that was kind of recursive. Can I say that recursive?
Yeah.
And for different reasons, all the 3 clients get lost because one decide to take a graphic inside the company, another decide to stop doing that kind of activity, another decide to do a competition to change all the brand identity, stuff like that. And so it was quite weird. I mean, it's like okay, you were building something. You say okay, now. Step after step, at the end, I'm finally having some safe space. I know that it's going to work. I can grow up a bit. And suddenly you feel like, okay, fuck, I have to start all over again. But you learn from mistakes.
Yeah.
Basically. So, I say that for because I was saying that at the beginning you had a lot of spare time, which is good in a way because you can start to do stuff that you want, but also quite painful and stressful because spare time means that you are not gain money, and basically if you are not rich you have to gain money to live basically. So
and I think the thing that's kind of interesting is I remember reading at some time back about Coca-Cola. There was also I think for a year, because I mean Coca-Cola is probably one of the most famous brands in the world, and there was a year that they experimented with stop doing advertising. And that was one of the worst years they had in a very, very, very long time. But you would think that everybody already knows Coca-Cola, so they don't need to advertise. But even for them, when they stopped advertising, they lost so much revenue.
I don't know. There are people who doesn't has portfolio online. They doesn't exist and they work. So I think that's a business model are really different for everybody. It's something that I question myself every time I find a graphic designer who works actually, but doesn't have nothing online, nothing anywhere. It doesn't really exist in the, I don't know. You have you have to ask to them. Okay, try to find a graphic designer who doesn't exist online. It works and say, but how you can work basically? Where do you find your work? Because I'm really curious.
Yeah, this interesting one. I am very curious. When I looked at your guys' portfolio and the type of work you do, and in the portfolio, I'm looking at the Instagram feed. There's a lot of physical books and print media. And, a lot of people have been saying for quite a few years now, print is dead. And to some extent, it has changed. So, for me personally, I still love buying very niche, unique magazines. And I do that when I travel. Because then on the airport bookstores, they usually have the local design editorial type magazines that are quite expensive. And it's not like that weekly news publications you buy, but it's like a coffee table book. It's something that has a completely different experience. And I'm very curious to hear from you, being in the industry for now over 10 years, how have you seen that change? The products that you guys are making, which is physical print, it doesn't seem to be things that people are consuming fast, like, People magazine. What is the experience that you're now creating versus the old idea of print magazines?
I think that you're correct when you say basically the print stuff now it became a sort of luxury stuff. I mean, not luxury, but a certain experience. I mean, you don't buy like €5 magazine to get update from news or something that you like. Yeah, or also because, for example, as I said, I'm in car stuff. I don't buy basically magazine about cars because I found that news on the internet, in Instagram, and I'm not really interesting. But it could happen that I buy like a monography on a particular kind of car, particular designer, or I buy, or the same for when I was young, when I was studying, or at the beginning of my graphic design career, we used to buy a book of graphic design, basically, in which there are collection of, for example, I don't know, the book about two-color graphic designs or what logos. It's something that it's really hard now to sell, and it's really weird to buy in a way. Now, what I buy, for example, is essay about graphic design, historic book about graphic design, or the work, a monography about some studio in which you can see all the story of the studio, maybe something that you cannot find on the internet. This is what changed, basically. The paper is not dead. It's just changed the rule that have in society. Is not something that you use all day, basically, or maybe use all day, but you buy something that it's go deeper in the news, and it's more about a sort of small essay. So, and you not pay a magazine €5, you pay €20, €25. And for this reason, for us, it's better, because if you can make a magazine paid like €20, it means that you can allow to have a better quality of print. You can allow the project to have a special color or a particular kind of paper. There is much more how can I say, attention to finishing, attention to the design. So I've never worked in a magazine, like in a, what's the name in English? Where the people stay in the magazine and do stuff. Where the newsroom.
Yes, like
the
just
word in English.
normal consumable magazines.
Exactly. I've never worked in some place like that. I've got a friend that worked there. And to me, it was quite crazy, because he used to do just one magazine in a month. I say, okay, but what are you doing all day long? Because and he wasn't alone. He was like, I think that there are 2 or 3 graphic designers. It was like the golden age of magazines, probably. Now the weird stuff is that even a magazine cost like €20, you still need some advertising to be sustainable. For example, we do this self-edited book with a collective of architects, which is called Horizontale, and the work is called Atto, and it's a reflection about public space. Basically, it started with the lockdown, and then we did 5 numbers yet. The 4th and the 5th number is going to be out soon, and that cost €15, and basically we don't get money of it. Basically, it's just something that at the beginning we put money in it. Now it's something that the money that I get from the previous number, I used to print the following number. So there is no margin, basically. And there is no advertisement for sure. So probably it's still something that you have to understand, if you want to do that, how to live with that.
No, absolutely. And you just even mentioned, thank goodness it's kind of moved from the industry of you're just designing for something that's quick, consumable, replaceable, goes to the dustbin, where now what you're actually creating is something that has a longer lifespan, because it's not something you're just consuming quickly and throwing away. It's becoming something, like you say, luxury that you keep on a coffee table, on a bookshelf, and you have a lot of more sentimentality that's attached to it. Now, if you think back to traditional printing of magazines and stuff, if you look at the content, the content very directly reflected the design and the layout. So you'll have an image that is probably a photo directly reflecting the content in a realistic way. The copy itself is very monotonous, where if I look at the work that you guys are doing, there's obviously a bit of experimental editorial layout, which is really nice. But what I do want to hear from you is the process you guys go through and how much of the content. So if you have a journalist or someone that wrote the pieces coming into this architecture magazine, how much of the content, the actual words and stuff, influence and inform the editorial design of it?
The content is the first things. I mean, we always read what we design. And for example, this architecture, the first number, which is what on number one, also the others are based on the content. So we read what is written in it and basically try to, it depends, of course, by the work. But in this case, since it was a self-committed work, we try to put we try to stress the content in graphic and try to express the content with the graphic itself. There is this book that it's called "The Medium is the Massage" by Quentin Fiore, in which is one of the greatest example of this, in which the graphics follow the content and trying to stress the content as much as it can. So it's not just a written book with nice typography and well done composition, but it's really, the content is really stressed by the graphic design itself. So yeah, the content it's our core. Basically, we always read what we design. It's the first thing. It's the first thing. We do also content design a lot. Most of the time. For example, when you do website, we do content design. So the first things is try to define how the content is put in places, and then you decide all the rest. But yeah, it's for us it's really important. Then there are some stuff that it's not based on the content, which is just visually. You have again try to balance. We really think that form needs to follow function in a way. It's a sort of kind of rationalism and modernism motto. But we also think that at some point there are things that just work well graphically and visually, so you don't have to justify everything. Okay, you have to have an idea that works, but then you can just adjust it to make it works visually, which is important as well.
Yeah. So there's something that I want to ask a little bit of, and I know there's only so much value you can get from thinking about things that have already passed. But if, for example, you were able to meet yourself from 9 years ago, before you started Atto, what advice would you give yourself, or what things would you tell yourself to avoid or do?
It's a really hard question, What I could say is, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe trying to have more fun. I think that's I can speak for myself, but also Sarah, it's a bit like that because we spoke about that a lot. We are the kind of guy who, for that work is more painful than fun in a way. Okay, it's the good result always came with a bit of pain and a phase in which say, no, this is not good. I have to go back to my file and do it again until I'm completely satisfied. I think that this is, you can do it, but you can do it in a funny way. I mean, you don't have to put yourself on the cross. I don't know if it's a way of saying English. To get a better result. I mean, you can get a better result, just say, okay, this doesn't work, but who cares? Just find another way. For a long time, probably the point in which you are not satisfied and you're not feel completed by what you do, it was a good way to improve and to grow up as a person. But I think that could be another way. Probably that's the greatest advice that I could give, and I still give to myself, because in a way that's an attitude, no, just to judge yourself,
enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah,
Okay.
There are different kind. Again, there are different kind of people. I mean, there are people who just enjoying without and doing great stuff.
Trying.
I do think a lot of people can relate to you, as creatives. Generally speaking, creatives are pretty hard on themselves. Seems to be the type of people that tend to fall into the creative category.
Because basically designing, it's like a jump in the void, because you start something that you really don't know how it will end at the end.
Exactly. And then we put a lot of personal investment into that void.
Exactly. So, this could be an advice even for myself now. An evergreen advice. But at that time... I mean, at that time, I thought that was, what the way in which it worked, and the only way in which you can make a work good. Now I think that there's another way.
Yeah, and
I'm learning.
I was just gonna say, I think good advice is relevant regardless of how old you are. So maybe that's why it's relevant both now and back then. And then maybe one other thing that I would ask, which is a little bit of a similar kind of question, but maybe just reflecting on your journey thus far, what are maybe one of the challenges that you've faced along the way, that either that you've learned something important from, or one that has just sort of forced you to change the way you look at things?
One in particular, I think it's, as a journey, you learn something every day in a way. One is the one that I told you before about just not like sit down on what you're doing, but always you need to keep an eye in what where you're going. It's like, I think, drive a car in a way. Okay, if you want to do the curve, you have to look after the curve to do it well. You cannot look down at the curve. Also, if you ride a motorcycle, the first thing that when you learn to ride a motorcycle for doing a curve is looking at the end of the curve, not at the beginning.
Okay.
You have to always look forward, because you have to look where are you going, basically, not where you are in that moment. So that's one for sure. The other one is when I was working for the other company, there are a lot of stuff that I've underestimated. All the relationship with client, all the estimate, doing the estimate, get paid. I thought that, it's easy. What's the
Easy
matter
stuff.
with that? Easy stuff. No, it's not easy at all. And it's, you have to learn to, since we are a very small company, you basically you are the CEO, you are the administration, you are the art director. So you have to sometimes learn to make a step back. But yeah, that's it basically. I don't really know. I'm not so good to give life advice more than I'm still young.
Look, it's not necessarily about life advice. I think it's sometimes sharing your mistakes is the best life advice.
No, the mistakes.
Possible.
I'm quite a passionate person, so sometimes I would like to have bitten my tongue. But sometimes I say that aloud something that I shouldn't have said. Another thing that we learn is we stopped doing the stuff for free. We did a lot of stuff for free at the beginning, but at the end, now, if you are really interested in something, you say, okay, this is really, you make a really low price, but you have to get paid. Just because people, if they didn't put any money in the stuff, I know that it's a lot about money, this conversation, but I'm not really, on the money, but it's really important in a way, because
absolutely.
you're talking about
And I think it's important, because I think as creatives, if we are doing free work, we're also reinforcing to people that creativity can come for free, or the profession.
Yeah. But also people don't get the same attention. Basically, if you give that for free, say, okay, they look, say, okay, well, I don't put any effort. I mean, I put a lot of effort in giving you this, and you basically didn't put any effort. So if you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, who mind? If you just put like also a low amount of money, I think that it makes you a little bit more concentrate in judge what you're looking and in taking decision.
Absolutely.
So this is another lesson that we learn. And I think it's the same, for example, in exhibition. I mean, I think that museum are great stuff to be free, but I think if you put like just €1-2 of admission, I mean, that it's something that everybody could afford, or you make just free entry for some particular categories of people, I think that's could help in like selected people in a way.
Yeah.
Because at the end, there are in Italy normally the museum are like you need to pay to enter. It's not like in London, in England, in which a lot of museums are for free. Probably, and now here there is just one or two museums which are for free. So when you go there, you can find a lot of people that went there just because it's free. They are not. They don't say, okay, I want to do that and it's free, so I'm enjoying that. But it's like maybe it's raining. They can go to the park and go there. It's like a mall, So you say you can go to the mall.
Yeah.
I mean, it's free as well. So I think that even amount of money, like €1-2, which is basically the price of a coffee.
It's a big difference.
Yeah. So we have this tradition at the end of an episode where we get a question from the previous guest on the show.
Okay, nice.
And answer it to the guest now without them knowing, obviously, who the next guest would be. So our previous guest we spoke to a week ago is a gaming developer, software developer in gaming. And he left quite a big question. So I think I might have to read it twice because it even took me a few times to just wrap around the question.
It's a developer. It's a developer. So I mean, they work a lot with the brain,
So here goes. So he asks, what design decision in history do you think has had the greatest possible or positive impact on the largest group of people?
Positive impact, not non-impact. Positive.
Yes. Design decision with a big positive impact in history on a big number of people.
I think it could be some. I mean, I don't have an easy answer. I mean, I don't have a specific work, but I think it could be something related to social valuable. For example, some campaign for vaccination, like for polio vaccination. I mean, something like that. Probably, I think.
Yeah.
Or
those types of communication projects.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, for example, communication channels for a good cause.
I mean, probably are not the best designed things because normally this kind of campaign is not really cool. But I think that's like on 2 feet. I say something like that, or timetable for train, maybe also.
True. That's the funny
No. Wait. I really. This is okay. This is a better answer to me. It's like the road signal system.
That is actually a very good one.
Yeah,
I've actually always been very impressed by roads in general because I mean they're not very new. But there, especially if you consider the fact that you have got a huge brick of metal flying across the road and people don't have accidents all day, like is testament that there is a lot of good design there, and that the person going at that speed can still read a sign and understand it.
I will say road design system.
That's a good answer.
There's a weird stuff. I mean, even the small thing like putting the line, the white line on the road, really increase the visibility. Have you ever tried to drive it during night? Also ride a bicycle in night without white line on the road? You basically don't see the road.
Yeah, that's very true. Yes, yeah.
It was it's just a line, a white line. So probably this is one of them, but I think there could be a lot.
Nice, like
all
that.
Right.
And normally this is also a cool project. I mean, I would like to design a visual system for road. Also, also for example, what's the name? I don't remember they are really famous. Netherlands studio design all the police uniform and cars and in the 90s. It's amazing work.
Wow.
Okay.
I don't remember
I'm
the
not
name.
quite sure. Yeah, I'll have to look it up. I don't.
Yeah,
that doesn't sound familiar.
No, but they really now I've got an empty in my brain. Studio Dumbar.
Studio
Dumbar.
Dumbar. Okay. We'll definitely have a look.
And they're super nice because basically they move the perception of police. Here in Italy, if you look at all the communication of the police is still a bit of military and not to service people. There is moving like they're sort of ambulance in a way, like design. So they are moving from we are going to beat you into we are here to help you basically. In Italy, it's more like in Italy we are still in. I'm the guy. I'm going to beat you. Also, they look like that, basically. Yeah.
All right, Andrea. It's been really great chatting to you. I think we're coming around to the end of the episode. But maybe before we do that, where can people find you, follow you? Where can they hear a little bit more about the work that you're doing?
Okay. Basically, our most used social network is Instagram. You can find us at Hello Atto. And we start to use LinkedIn as well, but still a bit chunky. I don't know if it's the correct word. A bit like that. And our website is atto.si, atto.c. And this is where you can find basically us.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time and for being willing to share your story.
It was a pleasure.
I think it's if it helps at least even just one person thinking about the graphic design space or thinking about magazines or whatever it might be, I think it would have been a worthwhile conversation. So thank you very much.
You're welcome, and I'm happy to be. I'm happy to be here. Yeah, was here. To have been
to
here.
Our audience and. Yes, that's the one. And to our audience and everyone listening, thank you very much for your time, for this almost hour that we've been with you, and have a wonderful day further.
Cool, guys. Have a good one.